In this video, I'm going to be talking about Power Rangers, because that's what I decided to do with my life this last 2 weeks. Watch Power Rangers. Yeah, I didn't think that this would be a video that I was ever going to make, but I don't know. It's not something that we usually cover here, but alas, the time has come. Sometimes, right, I find myself going down rabbit holes on YouTube. Sometimes they're cookery videos, sometimes they are travel vlogs, and sometimes it's Power Rangers. Now, I thought it'd be interesting to maybe check out the opening stories of each era, because say you were coming into it completely blind, you just thought it's silly people dressing up in spandex fighting equally sillily, that's a word, monsters. I just wanted to see what the first impressions would be of each era, so to speak. Now, disclosure, I'm not counting Zeo, Turbo and In Space because they are continuations of Mighty Morphin. They don't establish a new era, so to speak, because that trend properly started with Lost Galaxy. But without further ado, we're going to go from worst to best. Number 18. Samurai. Yeah, the first of the Neo Saban era, it just doesn't leave a good impression. It feels like a diluted Mighty Morphin without any of the original's charm. The acting is bland, like block of wood type bland. The characters aren't giving any interesting introductions. The dialogue clearly dubbed. And I don't understand how this markets itself as a two-parter. It's not a two-parter, okay? There is a full narrative, start to finish, in that first episode, but yet it's called part 1. Huh? No, there is no part 2. It's all one part. Samurai, you talking. Number 17. Wild Force. The last of the original Saban era, and Wild Force completely fails to impress. It's Anthony's favourite one. I don't know why. Literally, the only thing that this first episode has going for it is that cool fight right at the beginning that doesn't have any dialogue in it whatsoever. Colt's journey, the Red Ranger, who killed someone with a samurai sword. But yeah, his journey could be way more interesting if it wasn't stuffed into a condensed montage at the very start of the episode. Like literally, within 2 minutes, he's already left his homeland to go seek answers as to who he is or whatever his whole thing is. The rest of the Rangers are pretty awful. They're arrogant, and they literally kidnap you, Red Ranger. I'm not a fan of the fantasy aesthetic of it either. You've got this mage-like mentor character who pops off about a load of mystical mumbo jumbo. My least favourite type of Power Rangers, that is. But at least it's more original than Samurai. Number 16. Lightspeed Rescue. Now, I want to like Lightspeed Rescue. I want to like Lightspeed Rescue. I said it again. I had several stories back in the day on VHS. Like I had the Titanium Ranger story. I had the team up that they had with Lost Galaxy. But this first story is a clustered mess. The characters are given rushed introductions, and they don't have much motivation really to commit to the Power Ranger course. Sit you down. This is what we're doing. Okay, I'm in. No real this sounds like a load of bullshit. I mean, only the Green Ranger does that, to his credit. I'd be there with him if it was pitched to me like they pitched it to them. At least the Zords aren't crammed into this, because they could have very easily done that, and that would have been way too much. But there is no excusing this story's shoddy construction. Number 15. Mighty Morphin. Clearly, it's a work in progress. It is the original, isn't it? It is. It's going to be a work in progress. What it does well is establish the tropes of each character, with a good focus on the personalities of Jason and Billy in particular. But too much is crammed into a mere 22 minutes of screen time. Future seasons have stronger openings and better developed characters from the get-go than this, and Mighty Morphin's opener definitely suffers from not being a two-parter, which it definitely needs to be. Number 14. Megaforce. Coming off the back of Samurai, Megaforce had a very steep hill to climb. Luckily, it did it okay. It does a much better job of its characters than Samurai does. Gives them all unique and quirky personalities and balances them quite well in the short runtime that it's got. Actually doing a far better job at this than Mighty Morphin. Where it falls short is the recycled tropes from the original era. You've got a Zordon type mentor, you've got an Alpha knockoff, and then the second half of the episode just devolves into a seemingly endless fight. And plus, the Ranger costumes suck. Number 13, Jungle Fury. Now, again, I wanted to like Jungle Fury I can't speak. I have childhood memories of it. It was the last season I caught on TV before school. Despite being a two-parter and giving its characters and plot adequate time to breathe, it's just missing something. And I'm not sure what that something is, really. The story benefits from having a small Ranger roster, and I like the idea of there being a corrupt student from this like ninja academy or whatever it is that they are exactly, being the main bad guy, having turned to the dark side, possession or not. I like that, that's cool. I don't think the opener does enough with the cards it's drawn to warrant my attention staying. Still, the tensions between the blue and the red Rangers is quite nice, and the aesthetic of the show I do quite like as well. But everything else is just a bit bland. Number 12, Ninja Storm. Now, Ninja Storm is a good one to compare to Jungle Fury because both shows share a common aesthetic of martial artists learning in a remote setting, being stripped of their resources and left to pick up the pieces. Ninja Storm tops Jungle Fury, however, mostly because of the chemistry between the characters. I think it's far superior, and plus the Ranger suits are S tier. I love the Ninja Storm suits. But it is impressive how distinct the cast feel in just 22 minutes, as opposed to a story double length. Lothor is intimidating. Mercifully, the Zords are not present, because the Zords were always my least favourite part of Power Rangers in general. But Ninja Storm would be higher on the list, but other openings edge it out simply because they do everything that Ninja Storm did even better. Number 11, Mystic Force. Now, the thing I like about Mystic Force is the chemistry between the characters. They all bounce off each other really well. The Red Ranger's arc of having to believe in magic is handled quite nicely. And the stunts, too. The stunts are legitimately... What I don't like, however, about Mystic Force is, again, the fantasy aesthetic. A lot like with Wild Force. It's not helped by the voiceover, the repeat of the magical sage trope from that show. Fortunately, Mystic Force is a two-parter, and it's structured quite well, but it doesn't do quite enough to retain my personal interest. Number 10, Operation Overdrive. I know, it's controversial, I know, because it has a reputation for being the most hated of all of the shows, but the opening two-parter leaves a decent impression. I'm gonna get cancelled for this. I like the Red Ranger's arc about wanting to contribute in the face of overwhelming odds, and I like the idea of the two main villains being in conflict with one another, but I do find the drafting of the Rangers a little bit ludicrous. The cast chemistry could use some work as well. So overall, Overdrive may not have a good legacy, but the opening story is harmless enough. Number 9, Ninja Steel. We now reach the part of the list where we have a consistent quality amongst all of the season openers. Now, the downside is that this causes them to start blending together, and it's hard to kind of differentiate these next few ones, especially this mid-tier of the list. Now, Ninja Steel does a very good job at introducing its main characters at a steady pace and gives them all interesting depth. Well done. Specifically the Red and the Pink Rangers. The suits are also some of the best I've seen, honestly. I think the Ninja Steel suits are pretty cool. With a well-crafted story, the only element that stops Ninja Steel from being higher on the list is just the presence of two kind of unbearable comic relief characters. Number 8, Dino Thunder. Now, let's not beat about the bush, right? The main element that makes Dino Thunder as high as it is the presence of one Dr. Tommy Oliver. You do have an interesting premise of Tommy now being the mentor figure, to the new Rangers, as well as a threatening villain in Mesogog. And there's an even more interesting concept of a secondary villain, basically posing as the high school head teacher and being almost like a ground level constant antagonist to the Rangers in a different facet. I like that. The thing that does slightly taint the experience of the story, however, for me, is the characterization of the Red Ranger. Is his name Connor? Is it Connor? Yeah, he's a bit of a sexist. Also, with Tommy being in a position of authority as a teacher and taking students on personal gallivanting missions, does that make him... Number 7, Dino Charge. Now, Dino Charge continues the trend of being an inoffensive introduction by having a solidly crafted story. While this sounds a lot like the same comment I had about Ninja Steel, I would argue that the cast chemistry and the humour is even more refined in Dino Charge. And this show does not rely on a legendary ranger either, which promotes its strength over Dino Thunder. What I don't like are two simple aesthetic choices, right? The suits, and then more importantly, the morphers. They're ridiculous. You know, you have to pull out a Nerf gun, load it with something, do a twirl, shoot the thing, wait for it to spiral around you. No, guns as morphers, stupid. Number 6, Dino Fury. I'm sensing a theme now. Dino, Dino, Dino. As first impressions go, though, it is actually quite positive. I like the overall aesthetic of this era, the suits, the character chemistry, the design of the villain of the piece, you know, that purple knight guy who's probably stripped straight from Mystic Force, to be fair. Yeah, they've run out of ideas for the fact that they've named 3 of their seasons Dino something, and they've had more than that based on dinosaurs, though it will be rebranded as Cosmic Fury soon. It does feel very contemporary because you got your Pink Ranger, who's your main character, again, it's like a social media sort of person, so sure. It wisely doesn't overstuff itself by trying to introduce as many plot elements as it can. It doesn't even introduce its full cast in the first episode. Instead, it chooses to take its time telling a captivating story. With 3 Dino-themed seasons ranked together, though, it does in the end come down to personal preference as to what I like better. As it stands, Dino Fury provided me with the most entertainment of the 3, and a better premise than Ninja Steel, I suppose. In the end, less in an episode, I think, is more. Number 5, Lost Galaxy. Lost Galaxy is iconic. The team, setting up a space station, Miranoi, the moon, the sacrifice of someone who appears to be a main character from the get-go, the hero's journey of Leo as he attempts to prove his worth. All these things make Lost Galaxy memorable. Lost Galaxy marks the part of this list that I would genuinely consider watching. Number 4, Beast Morphers. Now this took me by surprise as to just how much I actually enjoyed it. The look of the suits and frankly the awful theme tune, the Beast Morphers, that was initially off-putting. I didn't like that at all. But the setting of how the Rangers are now essentially a man-made super soldier sort of thing, that is immensely fascinating to me. Coupled with endearing characters and essentially evil Rangers being the main threat, I love that. It reminds me so much of the Psycho Rangers. Beast Morphers boasts an expertly crafted pilot episode that has passion and stakes. Beast Morphers makes a strong enough statement to remain in the mind, and I would happily revisit this if it retains the consistent quality that its first story has. Number 3, RPM. RPM stunned me with how hard of a departure from the conventional Power Rangers formula it is. Set in a near-apocalyptic world, its pilot is a race to reach the haven offered by a domed city. What a stunning premise it has. The addition of interesting characters, the stakes have never been higher. They've never felt higher. They've never felt more intense. The sheer idea of dark and gritty Power Rangers appeals to me so much that this instantly shot to like 3rd place. And you know, if you want dark and gritty Power Rangers, that short film that Katie Sackhoff was involved with a few years back, damn, that's cool. The minor things I don't like about this are the theme tune of Ranger suits, as I've said before, but literally everything else, great. Yowza. Who says yowza anymore? I just did. Number 2, Time Force. What's not to love about Time Force? The suits are S tier. The theme is banging. Rancic makes an amazing first impression by killing a ranger, and the central plot of a quest through time to avenge Alex is not only endearing, but also gives Jen and her team some meaty plot and excellent depth. The curveball of Wes being the fallen Alex's doppelganger, excellently drafted. And overall, Time Force begins with a super strong opening gambit. I have never seen anything from Time Force before doing this, but I am blown away by how captivating it is. Number 1, SPD. An SPD does literally everything right. Catchy theme, awesome suits, perfectly moulded characters. The story it presents is endearing. You've got Sky and his aspirations to be a Red Ranger because his dad was a Red Ranger, but because of how arrogant he is made a Blue Ranger, whilst literally a street rat is given the honour instead, which undoubtedly leads to conflict throughout the season, but I wouldn't know because I've not watched the rest of it. The relationship between your Red and Yellow Rangers is also interesting, with their Robin Hood style of enterprise, demonstrating their kind and moral hearts, which helps us connect with them and their desire to do more to help those in need. The concept of Rangers basically being a space police force is engaging, and all of this makes for a fantastic two-parter. As I said, I would legitimately consider checking out more of SPD, Time Force, RPM, Beast Morphers, and Lost Galaxy. I'm not a hardcore Power Rangers fan anymore by any means, but it is good to know that something that could easily be dismissed as a kids show does have some interesting writing behind it, spectacle, and engaging tropes that anyone can enjoy regardless of how old they are. I could easily do this for Transformers. I might just do it regardless. That's what those YouTubers do, isn't it? Come up with things on the fly, like an outro. It'd be really handy if I could think of an outro, but last time I tried to record this, I couldn't think of an outro, and I still can't think of an outro. Okay, bye.